Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com. It's the beginning of September 2024 and it's time for another tour brought to you by my sponsor, Vessi Seeds. Let's go have a look around. Okay, so here we are at the entrance of the garden. Had a lot of activity, a lot of things being harvested right now. I'll show you what's going on. This was all potatoes. They've all been harvested. You can see some of the mulch is still intact. This bed's done for the season. Over here, tried something new. I tried planting this Malabar spinach, which I got as transplants. It's supposed to be a perpetual form of spinach. These are supposed to grow really tall. I haven't harvested these once, and I've only got about, maybe 2 feet of growth at the most. So, I mean, maybe it's just this bed, not productive enough. But I don't know if I'm going to try this again. It's not hardy to my zone anyway. This is supposed to come back year after year after year, but that's only if you can keep it alive. I expect the winter to kill it. And if I could get multiple years out of it, I think it'd be a great crop. But I thought I'd get more out of it in a single season. So I don't think Malabar spinach is going to work for me where I am anyway. Zucchini is, I mean, we're still producing, right? We're still getting zucchini, but the plants are kind of winding down. We had a wicked storm last night. The garden looks a bit beat up. We had some high winds and not a hurricane or anything like that, just really heavy rains and a lot of wind. And so things are sort of beat down a little bit. But that's typical. It's, it's not fall yet, but we're, it's just a few weeks away, and that's typical of this time of year. Rain, wind, storms. Over here, this was potatoes. They're all harvested. Parsnips are still on the ground. I'll leave these in the ground right till we start getting some hard frosts. This was peas and potatoes. They're all harvested. I got to get some mulch on this. This was a garlic bed, and I decided to plant some peas down the middle, and they're growing. I don't know if I'll get peas before things start getting cold, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. I thought I'd go for it. Over here we got beans. We've been harvesting a lot of these. We got a lot of these put down in the freezer. I see that my kids need to do another harvesting session, but anyway, these are the Vortex green bean. Great bean, can't recommend it enough. And you get a lot of beans that have just this a 10-foot long trellis, right? And you get a lot of beans out of that. All I did was plant 2 rows, like on either side of the trellis. I just planted a bean every 3 inches, all the way along 10 feet. And that's a lot of beans. Over here, you can see I planted a bush bean, yellow bush bean. It was a very late crop. They're starting to form up now. You can see these were smashed down by the rain a little bit, but I expect to get some before we start getting our frost, because they're already forming up, right? These are like a yellow bush bean. So we'll see what we get, but I expect to get something. This was a late crop of a kind of Asian green. I think they're called Gai Lan or something like that. They're starting to come in now. You see they're kind of broccoli-like, right? They're very succulent, very tender. Pests love them. But if you can get them past that stage where they're getting eaten alive by pests, they're actually a wonderful, delicious green. So they're starting to be okay. This was a lettuce garden, and then I replanted these later in the season, and they're just starting to come along now. Over here we got beets. Don't look like much, but I mean, these, you can see they have some size, right? That's about 2 inches wide and maybe 3 or 4 inches long. So even though the greens don't look like much, it's all in the root. By contrast, this, I can't remember what this is called, like fire something, Swiss chard, is just the best Swiss chard I've ever grown. And I'm going to keep planting this because I'm so happy with the productivity. And they even look like, some of them have a huge root at the base, almost looks like a beet, even though these are not. I know they look like beets, but they're not. They're Swiss chard. Swiss chard and beets are related. They're like cousins, right? So anyway, the greens on these Swiss chard taste more like a sweet beet green than a Swiss chard. And for my money, these are better green. These are a better green than a typical Swiss chard green. I mean, I like Swiss chard too, but I find that they're still like Swiss chard, kind of pest free, right? I haven't had any real flea, beetle, slug, snail problems with this crop, although they do attack other things in my garden. I'll show you that as we go along. This is basically a pest-free, delicious green that you can harvest all summer long. That's the other thing. A lot of Swiss chard gets a bit bitter in the summer. This wasn't. So this is like top of the list for excellent green to grow. Over here, cucumbers are all done. I think I might change my variety of cucumber. I've been planting the same kind for a number of years, and they seem to finish in August. And I mean, this bed has good soil. It's not a soil issue because I amended it with manure, and the entire garden, everything was, you know, I put about an inch or so of manure in every bed, and it had a really good effect. The garden was very productive this year, and you're going to see, I mean, if you saw my July garden tour, what you saw was a very successful, productive garden, right? Things are winding down already, even though we haven't had any frost yet. But still, you can see the signs of production in the garden. So I don't think it was a soil issue. I think it's just a variety, almost like a determinant, where they have a certain amount of, you know, fruit they're going to produce, and that's it. And I've had other varieties that produce deeper into September. So I might try a different variety of cucumber next year. It's always good to try different things. I was happy. I mean, I got, you know, by the time these plants were winding down, I was tired of making pickles. So that's always good timing. And you can see the wind we got last night. All this, you can see how beat up this. So all this dill was standing up before yesterday. Now it's all smashed to pieces, right? If you saw that video where I was putting the tomatoes up on trellis, they're all up. You can see that totally worked. Tomatoes look great. We got lots of nice tomatoes. I mean, the plants look like they're kind of done, but that, again, that kind of happens this time of year when you get winds and various blights can come along and so on and so forth. But it doesn't matter. We got lots and lots of tomatoes, right? Every day, every couple of days, you come out and fill a bowl. And, you know, if you're new to tomatoes, or, I mean, we have this idea, because I think marketing and stores talk about vine ripened tomatoes, like you're not supposed to pick them until they're super, super ripe. That doesn't make any sense. And that's not what people did in the old days. You don't pick a tomato like this, but this color, you pick anything. Even you can see how this one has some color compared to these two. You pick that, you bring it indoors, you put it in a bowl and you cover it with something. It'll turn red, and it won't taste any different than if it had white ripened on the vine or in a brown paper bag or whatever, right? So you just pick everything with color and leave what hasn't got any color on it on the vine to continue to ripen, so the plant can focus its energy on that. But a very successful tomato crop this year, and I will definitely plant this variety of tomato again. They're not big, right? They're sort of a, I don't know, like a mid-sized tomato, but they're big enough for sandwich and disease-free. Like, I haven't had any real problems with these tomatoes. They're pretty low maintenance. Like some tomatoes, they get different pests into them, they get different diseases in the tomato. You might get a bit of blossom end rot. I mean, a lot of people say that's about soil, but it's not really. And some varieties are more prone to it than others because of the way they take up nutrients from the soil. We really haven't had many issues with blossom end rot with these this year. They've just been a very dependable, reliable, productive tomato. I just can't remember what they're called. But I'll definitely give these a try next year because I'm really happy with them. And of course I got some nice little cherry tomatoes too, but that's that. Pumpkin, I did not plant my pumpkins in an ideal spot from a sunlight point of view, and that's why they're not enormous. I mean, that's about an 8-inch diameter. That's a 9 to 10-inch diameter pumpkin, right? We're not winning any county fairs with these pumpkins, but they're, I mean, the only reason I planted them is my wife wants pumpkins to put on the front step for Halloween. This is a part of the garden where, you know, things aren't that productive. This will keep her happy. Raspberries, got lots of raspberries this year. The plants are winding down now, and sometime at a later date I'll have to take out the stalks that are completely done. You can see some stalks have new growth and other stalks kind of look dead, so those ones have to come out. There's a bit of pruning work to do there, but I can do that anytime between now and, you know, the end of next March. More pumpkins here. You can see the sunchokes over there. starting to tip over, but I don't bother harvesting those till we've had some frost. Kind of let the callaloo go a little bit, so I got a lot of seeds for callaloo. Right, you can still harvest the foliage, but yeah, I did not stay on top of my callaloo. We went away for a week, and some of the things just went crazy, and the callaloo is one of those things. So I got a lot of seed, a lot of seed. But I really enjoyed when we were harvesting the callaloo. It was a great crop, and I want to grow it again next year. I think I space it out a little bit better next time. But everybody liked callaloo in the house. Great green. And a great summer green. A lot of greens like kale don't taste so good in the summer. Callaloo is good. Over here, this was my most pest-ridden crop, kale. Why was it pest-ridden? Because I had them growing too close together, and I didn't treat them with anything. So just about 2 weeks ago, I finally went and thinned them all out. And every couple days I've come out and given them a blast of Safer's Endall. So you can see the untreated leaves. This is flea beetle damage. And it's warm enough for flea beetles to be around today. I don't see a lot of them. That's because for about a week I would come out every 2 days and give everything a blast of Safer's Endall. And you can see the new growth coming in. Looks like nice kale. I'm hoping that I can get some decent harvestable kale by sometime in October. We got a month to grow, and I mean these aren't baby kale. You can see they got developed roots. So all I need to do now is remove the dead stuff, get a good mulch down, and I should have some good kale this fall. This will be my fall crop of kale. So I didn't get as much kale as usual this year, but I think I can salvage. I think I did. I mean, what I did should have been done months prior, but I still think, because it grows very fast this time of year. It likes this kind of weather. We still have lots of sun, lots of heat, and good rain. So I should get some kale. I might do a follow-up video on that a bit later on. This is winter squash. Wow, what a difference a day makes. So there was a lot of leaves here just a day ago, and now you can see all the foliage has just been beat down by that crazy rain. So you can see I got one kind of winter squash here, and then I got these enormous delicata. These are normally the size of maybe your fist. These ones are almost the size of an acorn squash. But I got lots of them, lots of these delicata. They store well, they taste really good, almost like a sweet potato. Definitely successful squash garden here, lots of squash. Keep us going well into winter. The peppers. This garden here is peppers and basil. This was a lettuce garden right up until, I planted lettuce in April, and then sometime in June, July, I moved the peppers out, and they took a while to get going. But as you can see, we now have some nice peppers. Now I'm not going to bring these in until they start to turn red. Right, these will all turn red eventually, okay? Unless we have a risk of frost, and then you just have to bring everything in. You can't do anything with it. This is all a late planting of this basil, sweet basil, and it's wonderful. I think I might devote a whole garden to it next year. I like it so much. The trick with basil is not planting it out too early. Almost like where I am, it's almost pointless to plant it before like July practically. And these were a late planting. But you can see they're doing really, really well and growing fast, right? With healthy basil. So lots of peppers, lots of basil. Over here we got onion. So you can see they're all tipped over. These are all ready for harvest. I just need a nice dry day, and we'll pull them all out and just let them bake in the sun for an afternoon. Then bring them in, clean them up, let them cure for a week, somewhere with some airflow. Same way I do my onions, and the same way I do my garlic. And we'll have a great onion crop. These are Sturian, or I always think I pronounced that wrong. Anyway, they're big, right? These are like baseball sized or even slightly larger onion, right? Nice, big, round, fat onion. So totally happy. And this was a bed where we had really bad results last year, and all I did was put some manure down, and either it's usually a pretty simple equation where I am. Either the soil is lacking in nutrients or it's too acidic. So I just added some lime and worked some manure in, and because the soil that this garden was made of wasn't very good soil. And just, I made a pond over here, and the soil that came out of the hole went in there. So a lot of clay and a lot of just substandard, not a lot of organic matter in that soil. So last year I think I planted squash here and I got hardly anything. So this year, what a difference, right? This was a productive onion crop. You can't ask for much more than this. That's good. This is another bed of kale I made by just pulling kale and replanting it. It's starting to recover from that. You can see new growth looking good. Okay. And you can see how the old growth, very pest ridden. But I would imagine in a few weeks you're going to see a pretty dramatic transformation of this garden, although I do need to get some mulch down. Over here we got my ongoing saga of trying to get lingonberries or partridge berries growing in my garden. And it's the same story as before, where I have this kind of sparse, they're like a cranberry. And you can see I've got some, but not many. Just few and far between, not enough to do anything with. Just enough to feed the partridge, basically. Right? And I do see them in here from time to time. So I mean, I got a full garden, full of the plant, but just not enough fruit to do anything with. So, not sure what I'm going to do with this space. The grapes, these are not as big as they should be. They're a bit smaller this year, but last year they didn't produce at all because they were moved. So definitely a better year this year. We've got clusters of grapes, and we'll probably, we don't have enough to make wine. And these are not an eating grape. They're kind of a little bit sour. But what we do is we take them all once they turn ripe, and we squish them, make a kind of grape juice, and that's part of the Thanksgiving meal. I just add a bit of sugar to make it more palatable, otherwise the kids won't drink it. Right, so there's that. This apple tree looks like it's, with all that rain we had, it looks like it tipped a little bit. I'm gonna have to fix that. That's what those two posts are for anyway, so I'm gonna have to tie that back up so it stays put. Still getting some blueberries on the blueberry bush here. These ones are all done. This is a different variety of blueberry, more upright, and it tends to have bigger berries. I wish I had more of these, quite frankly. Anyway, still producing a little bit, right? Other apple trees doing fine, and I harvested some runner growth and planted them in this bed. You can see a bit of some weeds happening here, right, like that. Job for my kids, but you can see the runners I planted I've taken. I spaced them out, right? This, whatever this weed is, it's pervasive in my garden, but it's not hard to pull. Anyway, you can see that the planted runners have all taken. Oh, there's some sort of quack grass or something there. Just put that upside down. Plant a clump of grass, just pull it out and put it upside down, and sometimes that'll kill it. There we go. Anyway, doing fine, right? So, yeah, these probably won't be that productive next year because they were just planted this year. But hopefully next year, these ones will do really well. And you can see, even though I've been clipping runners, we still have more runners forming on these, so you have to stay on top of that. That's just one more thing to do. We've got all of these runners here. Right, great gift for a friend, but yeah, if you want big, thick, productive plants, you got to control your strawberry runners. I haven't mulched this yet. The cardboard or the leaf bag paper that I laid down months ago, still doing its job. Not a lot of weeds, right? But in a month or so, when we start getting really hard frosts, I'll cover all this with leaves. Even though they're called strawberries, leaves make a perfectly fine mulch for strawberries. You weed them really good, then get the leaves down. And if you do a really good job of weeding, you get the leaves down, or get the mulch down before freeze up and all that, you should have a fairly weedless garden the following year. Finally, we got the pond. Pond was looking so clear before this rain. Every time we have a rain, I get a lot of clay washed in from just everywhere. All the soil here is clay, right? But this year with the pond, it was very successful. You can see I've got a lot of aquatic, oh, there's a little frog. You can see I've got a lot of aquatic plants, right? Just different things that I brought in from ditches in the neighborhood, just thrown things in the water and they've taken. So, I mean, that's what you want if you want to have a healthy pond. Combination of aquatic plants that are just native to the area, that are perennial. They'll come back. I don't need to buy them. And I bought a handful of watercress and just threw it all over the place. And a lot of it's underwater right now because we had all this heavy rain. You can see little bits of the watercress poking up here and there. And you can see those watercress roots floating there, right? So I think the watercress did a really good job of keeping the nutrient levels, using up the nutrients in the water, and just growing and growing and growing their roots. So I want to play around with watercress next year and see how much more I can get growing. I'd like to plant it around the edges and see if I can get it creeping up the concrete, but with all the roots in the water. Because like you can just literally throw it in the water and it seems to be able to grow, right? So it seems like it's sort of an ideal edge plant for a pond. Here's a nice one. Oh my goodness, there's 3 frogs here. I don't know where you can see them. So well camouflaged. They're all in the frame here. If I get a little closer, will they jump? There's one. See, there's 3. What a beautiful little picture. Anyway, they love it here. Last year, for whatever reason, the pond had got too much nutrient in it. This year, with all these pond plants, I haven't had a problem. Despite having, I'd say, close to a dozen frogs and over a dozen goldfish. I have too many fish in this pond, for sure. But the combination of fresh rainwater, changeover, every time it rains I get fresh water. I got a passive solar, very, very small pump. It's attached to that duct. It's underneath there's a water pump underneath the duct attached to a hose that takes water and brings it up here, and it trickles down like it coming down a mountainside. It's not running right now because there's not enough sun, but the water trickles down and it just keeps the water moving on days when we don't have rain. And it seems to work because last year at some point in the summer the water started to foam and I had to drain the pond and just fill it up with my garden hose. I didn't do anything like that, didn't need to do anything like that. This year the pond really took care of itself. Haven't done anything, haven't fed the fish, haven't done anything. Just a healthy, natural pond. Doesn't look like much, but it's got fish in it, and this is my source of water. And you can see a hose here. That's only because we had company coming over once and the pond was a bit low, and I added some water to the pond to make it look nicer. That's it. That's the only reason the hose is there. I'm using this pond and just watering jugs to keep the garden, when I've needed to water, which is not very often. When I'm moving plants or planting new seedlings, that's when I water. But all the mature plants, like these squash, they were watered when I planted the seeds. But once they got to a certain size, once I got the mulch on the soil, I stopped watering them. I haven't watered these peppers other than the day I planted them. I haven't watered them at all. I haven't watered those beans. I haven't watered that Swiss chard, right? Whole garden's just taking care of itself because I got everything. Everything's got a good coating of leaf mulch. So that's where we are. Early September 2024. We had a great gardening year. It's not over yet. There's still a lot to do out here, right? And a lot of things to get ready for next year, right? Because we're not in fall yet, but I keep saying fall because it's right around the corner. And it basically, once school starts for my kids, it's fall in all the ways that matter, in my opinion. This is a harvest time. If we think of the older use of the term, like autumn, right? It's the harvest time, and that's what it is, right? We're harvesting things, and we keep an eye on the temperature, and we watch to see if there's a risk of frost and things like that. That's the time of year it is, right? A lot of stuff to do in terms of getting stuff out of the garden and putting it down and getting it preserved for the winter, and a lot of stuff to do to just get the garden ready for next year, so that next spring I don't have to do a lot of tedious, hard chores. I like spring to be just thinking about planting and being focused on that, and not have any major projects on the go. I never seem to make it out. I always have some new crazy project going on in the garden, but I try to get as much of that done in fall as I can, especially when it starts cooling. It's still a bit hot. I mean, it's like 20 degrees outside right now, which doesn't sound hot to some people, but for a Canadian boy like myself, it's a bit too hot for hard work. But in a few weeks, early in the morning, it's cool and it's nice out here and you can get stuff done. So that's what I like to do this time of year. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Check out my weekly article at maritimegardening.substack.com. Check out the details in my description box about the coupon code offered by my sponsor, Vessi Seeds. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.